Actually, they on the weekends they generally read from the 11th canto. So either one is okay. They said from the first canto or the 11th canto, whichever one you would like to speak on. Okay. Is there anything specific you would like to read? Brihad Midanga. And in the morning he was asking, and I told him that he would be giving class. Where is he then? I have to ask him. I can ask him very quickly. I can ask him quickly where they are. Yes. So I'm just asking where they are. Yes. It's Canto 11, Chapter 11, text 43 to 45. Should I read the verse? Huh?
Chapter called.
The chapter is called The Symptoms of Living Entities. Might My dear Uddhava, one should worship me within the sun by chanting the selected Vedic mantras and by performing worship and offering obeisances. One may worship me within fire by offering oblations of ghee, and one may worship me among the brahmanas by respectfully receiving them as guests, even when uninvited. I can be worshipped within the cows by offerings of grass and other suitable grains, and paraphernalia for the pleasure and health of the cows. And one may worship me within the Vaishnavas by offering loving friendship to them, and honoring them in all respects. Through steady meditation, I am worshipped within the inner space of the heart, and within the air I can be worshipped by knowledge that prana, the life air, is the chief among elements. I am worshipped within water by offerings of water itself, along with other elements such as flowers and tulsi leaves. And one may worship me within the earth by proper application of confidential seed mantras. One may worship me within the individual living entity by offering food and other enjoyable substances. And one may worship me within all living entities by seeing the supersoul within all of them, thus maintaining equal vision. Purport. Significantly, the Lord emphasizes in these three verses that one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is expanded within all living beings. It is not recommended that one accept any material or spiritual object other than the Lord as supreme. By maintaining steady consciousness of the Lord in His all-pervading feature, one can remain in a worshipful mood 24 hours a day. Thus, one will naturally try to engage all material and spiritual elements in the loving service of the Lord. If because of ignorance one forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one may become inclined to worship powerful material phenomena independent of the Supreme Lord. Or one may foolishly consider oneself to be supreme. One should remain sane and accept the worshipable presence of the Supreme Lord within everything. Read this chapter. Read the verse from the beginning. Should I read from the beginning of the chapter, Raj, or just the verse? My dear Uddhava, one should worship me within the sun by chanting selected Vedic mantras. And by performing worship and offering obeisances, one may worship me within fire by offering oblations of ghee. And one may worship me among the brahmanas by respectfully receiving them as guests. Even when uninvited, I can be worshipped within the cows by offerings of grass and other suitable grains, and paraphernalia for the pleasure and health of the cows. And one may worship me within the Vaishnavas by offering loving friendship to them and honoring them in all respects. Through steady meditation, I am worshipped
within the inner space of the heart. And within the air I can be worshipped by knowledge that prana, the life air, is the chief among elements. I am worshipped within water by offerings of water itself, along with other elements such as flowers and tulsi leaves. And when we worship me within the earth by proper application of confidential seed mantras. When we worship me within the individual living entity by offering food and other enjoyable substances. And when we worship me within all living entities by seeing the supersoul within all of them, thus maintaining equal vision. Purport. Significantly, the Lord emphasizes in these 3 verses that one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is expanded within all living beings. It is not recommended that one accept any material or spiritual object other than the Lord as Supreme. By maintaining steady consciousness of the Lord in His all-pervading feature, one can remain in a worshipful mood 24 hours a day. Thus, one will naturally try to engage all material and spiritual elements in the loving service of Lord Krishna. If because of ignorance one forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one may become inclined to worship powerful material phenomena independent of the Supreme Lord, or one may foolishly consider oneself to be supreme. One should remain sane and accept the worshipable presence of the Supreme Lord within everything. Next one. Text 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Uddhava, due to the influence of the material modes of nature, which are under my control, the living entity is sometimes designated as conditioned and sometimes as liberated. In fact, however, the soul is never really bound up or liberated. And since I am the Supreme Lord of Maya, which is the cause of the modes of nature, I am also never to be considered liberated or in bondage. Just as a dream is merely a creation of one's intelligence, but has no actual substance, similarly material lamentation, illusion, happiness, distress, and acceptance of the material body under the influence of Maya are all creations of my illusion of energy. In other words, material existence has no essential reality. O Uddhava, both knowledge and ignorance, being products of Maya, are expansions of my potency. Both knowledge and ignorance are beginningless and perpetually award liberation and bondage to embodied living beings. O most intelligent Uddhava, the living entity called Jiva is part and parcel of me. But due to ignorance, he has been suffering in material bondage since time immemorial. By knowledge, however, he can be liberated. Thus, my dear Uddhava, in the same material body we find opposing characteristics, such as great happiness and misery. That is because both the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally liberated, as well as the conditioned soul, are within the body. I shall now speak to you about their different characteristics. By chance, two birds had made a nest together in the same tree. The two birds are friends and are of a similar nature. One of them, however, is eating the fruits of the tree, whereas the other, who does not eat the fruits, is in a superior position due to his potency. The bird who does not eat the fruits of the tree is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who by his omniscience perfectly understands his own position and that of the conditioned living entity, represented by the eating bird. That living entity, on that living entity, on the other hand, does not understand himself or the Lord. He is covered by ignorance and is thus called eternally conditioned. Whereas the personality of Godhead, being full of perfect knowledge, is eternally liberated. One who is enlightened in self-realization, although living within the material body, sees himself as transcendental to the body, just as one who has arisen from a dream gives up identification with the dream body. A foolish person, however, although not identical with his material body, but transcendental to it, thinks himself to be situated in the body, just as one who is dreaming sees himself as situated in an imaginary body.
Should I finish it or should I wait? first, you know?
Yes.
What?
The word sweet. You like to? Yes.
The ribbon is,
Huh?
built, the ribbon is. Read from where the ribbon is.
Yes. My dear Uddhava, narrations of my pastimes and qualities are all auspicious and purify the entire universe. A faithful person who constantly hears, glorifies, and remembers such transcendental activities, who through dramatic performances relives my pastimes, beginning with my appearance, and who takes full shelter of me, dedicating his religious, sensual, and occupational activities for my satisfaction, certainly obtains unflinching devotional service to me, the eternal personality of Godhead. Purport. Those who have faith only in the impersonal effulgent aspect of the Supreme Lord, those who have faith only in the localized supersoul, the perfect object of mystic meditation, located in the heart of every living entity, are considered to be limited and imperfect in their transcendental realization. The process of mystic meditation and impersonal philosophical speculation are both devoid of actual love of God, and therefore cannot be considered to be the perfection of human life. Only one who places full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes qualified to go back home, back to Godhead. Lord Krishna's pastimes of stealing butter from the elderly gopis, enjoying life with his cowherd boyfriends, and the young gopis, playing his flute and engaging in the rasa dance, etc., are all auspicious spiritual activities, and they are fully described in the 10th canto of this work. There are many authorized songs and prayers glorifying these pastimes of the Lord, and by constantly chanting them, one will automatically be fixed in smarana, or remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord exhibited his opulences upon his birth in Kansa's prison, and at the birth ceremony subsequently performed by Nanda Maharaj in Gokul. The Lord further performed many adventurous activities, such as chastising the serpent Kaliya and many other irresponsible demons. One should regularly take part in the ceremonies commemorating Krishna's pastimes, such as the Janmashtami celebration, glorifying the Lord's birth. On such days, one should worship the deity of Lord Krishna and the spiritual master, and thus remember the Lord's pastimes. The word dharma is in this verse indicates that one's religious activities should always be in connection with Krishna. Therefore, one should give charity in the form of food grains, clothing, etc. to the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, and whenever possible, one should arrange for the protection of cows who are very dear to the Lord. The word kama indicates that one should satisfy one's desires with the transcendental paraphernalia of the Lord. One should eat mahaprasadam, food offered to the deity of Lord Krishna. And one should also decorate oneself with the Lord's flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. One should place the remnants of the deity's clothing on one's body. One who lives in a luxurious mansion or apartment should convert his residence into a temple of Lord Krishna and invite others to come, chant before the deity, hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and taste the remnants of the Lord's food. Or one may live in a beautiful temple building in the community of Vaishnavas and engage in the same activities. The word artha in this verse indicates that one who is inclined toward business should accumulate money to promote the missionary work of the Lord's devotees, and not for one's personal sense gratification. Thus, one's business activities are also considered to be devotional service to Lord Krishna. The word nishchalam indicates that since Lord Krishna is eternally fixed in perfect knowledge and bliss, there is no possibility of disturbance for one who worships the Lord. If we worship anything except the Lord, our worship may be disturbed when our worshipable deity is placed in an awkward position. But because the Lord is supreme, our worship of him is eternally free of disturbance. One who engages in hearing, glorifying, remembering, and dramatically recreating the pastimes of the Lord will soon be freed from all material desires.
Right.
Just a little bit. Srila Jiva Goswami mentioned in this connection that one who is advanced in Krishna consciousness may specifically be attracted to the pastimes of a devotee in the spiritual world who serves the Lord in a particular way. An advanced devotee in this world may desire to serve the Lord in the same way, and thus may take pleasure in dramatically reliving the service of his worshipable devotee master in the spiritual world. Also, one may take pleasure in spiritual festivals, performances of particular pastimes of Lord Krishna, or activities of other devotees of the Lord. In this way, one can continually increase one's faith in the personality of Godhead. Those who have no desire to hear, glorify, or remember the transcendental activities of the Lord are certainly materially polluted and never achieve the highest perfection. Such persons spoil the opportunity of human life by devoting themselves to fleeting mundane topics that produce no eternal benefit. The real meaning of religion is to constantly serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose form is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. One who has taken full shelter of the Lord is completely uninterested in impersonal speculations about the nature of God and uses his time to advance more and more in the unlimited bliss of pure devotional service.
And
Yes.
the
Yes, 23 and 24, yes. Next verse 25. One who has obtained pure devotional service by association with my devotees always engages in worshipping me. Thus he very easily goes to my abode, which is revealed to my pure devotees. In the previous verses, Lord Krishna has emphasized the value of surrendering to him in loving devotional service. One may ask how such surrender or devotional service is actually achieved. The Lord gives the answer in this verse. One must live in a society of devotees, and thus automatically one will be engaged 24 hours a day in the various processes of devotional service, beginning with Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam, hearing, glorifying, and remembering the Lord. The pure devotees of the Lord can reveal the spiritual world by their transcendental sound vibration, making it possible for even a neophyte devotee to experience the Lord's abode. Being thus enlivened, the neophyte makes further progress and gradually becomes qualified to personally serve the personality of Godhead in the spiritual world. By constantly associating with devotees and learning from them about devotional service, one quickly achieves a deep attachment for the Lord and the Lord's service, and such attachment gradually matures into pure love of Godhead. Foolish persons say that the various mantras composed of names of God, as well as all other mantras, are merely material creations with no special value.
Oh, I can read it right now.
Yes. From the beginning of the purport?
Last two.
The last verse?
Last two, right?
Last two lines, okay. The pure devotees of the Lord can reveal the spiritual world by their transcendental sound vibration, making it possible for even a neophyte devotee to experience the Lord's abode. Being thus enlightened, the neophyte makes further progress and gradually becomes qualified to personally serve the personality of Godhead in the spiritual world. By constantly associating with devotees and learning from them about devotional service, one quickly achieves a deep attachment for the Lord and the Lord's service, and such attachment gradually matures into pure love of Godhead. Foolish persons say that the various mantras composed of names of God, as well as all other mantras, are merely material creations with no special value. And therefore, any so-called mantra or mystic process will ultimately produce the same result. To refute such superficial thinking, the Lord here describes the science of going back home, back to Godhead. One should not accept the bad association of impersonalists who state that the holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord are Maya or illusion. Maya is actually an insignificant potency of the Almighty Personality of Godhead, and if one ignorantly tries to elevate illusion above the absolute truth, one will never experience the love of Godhead and will be cast into deep forgetfulness of the Lord. One should not associate with those who are envious of the fortunate devotees who are going back to Godhead. Such envious persons deride the abode of the Lord, which is revealed by the pure devotees to those who have faith in the Lord's message. Such envious persons deride the abode of the Lord, which is revealed by the pure devotees to those who have faith in the Lord's message. Envious persons create disturbances among the people in general, who should take shelter of the faithful devotees of the Lord. Unless people hear from pure devotees, it is impossible for them to understand that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, eternally existing in His own abode, which is self-luminous, full of bliss and knowledge. In this verse, the importance of Sangha, association, is clearly explained.
Actually, the purport is name of this book. We have got the true details.
Yes.
You got it. Whatever.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. I agree. previous one is like 3 pages long, very deep. This is yes.
Very problem. We got all the point. It's problem is not my problem. It's why. Let me see what you're saying about today.
These ones.
What's the word? No.
This is verse number 25. So Canto 11, chapter 11, text 25.
Okay, and what was it in Norwich?
What was the normal verse? This one.
What would it be practical?
Yes.
You know, and what number was it?
I'm just checking that.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's in the same chapter that they're doing.
Yes. It's the same chapter.
What is it?
Text number 25. I'm putting the marker here.
Can you read what's in there? Oh, shoot, what is it, 25? Only the translation.
So the translation's up to 25?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Don't say the purpose.
Yes. Text 1. The Supreme Personality of God is said, My dear Uddhava, due to the influence of the material modes of nature, which are under my control, the living entity is sometimes designated as conditioned and sometimes as liberated. In fact, however, the soul is never really bound up or liberated. And since I am the Supreme Lord of Maya, which is the cause of the modes of material nature, I also am never to be considered liberated or in bondage. Just as a dream is merely a creation of one's intelligence.
There's a fly that keeps sitting on
Yes.
Should I finish Arti, Guru Maharaj?
Just as a dream is merely a creation of one's intelligence, but has no actual substance, similarly, material lamentation, illusion, happiness, distress, and the acceptance of the material body under the influence of Maya are all creations of my illusory energy. In other words, material existence has no essential reality. O Uddhava, both knowledge and ignorance, being products of Maya, are expansions of my potency. Both knowledge and ignorance are beginningless and perpetually award liberation and bondage to embodied living beings. O most intelligent Uddhava, the living entity called Jiva is part and parcel of me, but due to ignorance has been suffering in material bondage since time immemorial. By knowledge, however, he can be liberated.
Purport: just as the sun reveals itself through its own light or covers itself by creating clouds, the personality of Godhead reveals and covers himself by knowledge and ignorance, which are expansions of his potency, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.5. Besides this inferior nature, O mighty Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, consisting of all living entities who are struggling within the material nature and are sustaining the universe. Srila Prabhupada states in connection with this verse, the Supreme Lord Hari, the Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and all living entities are controlled by him. Next slide. Thus, my dear Uddhava, in the same material body, we find opposing characteristics, such as great happiness and misery. That is because both the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally liberated, as well as the conditioned soul, are within the body. I shall now speak to you about their different characteristics. By chance, two birds have made a nest together in the same tree. The two birds are friends and are of similar nature. One of them, however, is eating the fruits of the tree, whereas the other, who does not eat the fruits, is in a superior position due to his potency. Perfect. The example of two birds in the same tree is given to illustrate the presence within the heart of the material body of both the individual soul and the supersoul. The personality of Godhead, just as a bird makes a nest in a tree, the living entity sits within the heart. The example is appropriate because the bird is always distinct from the tree. Similarly, both the individual soul and the supersoul are distinct entities, separate from the temporary material body. The word balena indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is satisfied by his own internal potency, which consists of eternality, omniscience, and bliss. As indicated by the word bhuyan, or having superior existence, the Supreme Lord is always in a superior position, whereas the living entity is sometimes in illusion and sometimes enlightened. The word balena indicates that the Lord is never in darkness or ignorance, but is always full in his perfection, blissful consciousness. Thus the Lord is nirana, or uninterested in the bitter fruits of material activities, whereas the ordinary conditioned soul busily consumes such bitter fruits, thinking them to be sweet. Ultimately, the fruit of all material endeavor is death. But the living entity foolishly thinks material things will bring him pleasure. The word sakha yaud, or two friends, is also significant. Our real friend is Lord Krishna, who is situated within our heart. Only he knows our actual needs, and only he can give us real happiness. Lord Krishna is so kind that he patiently sits in the heart, trying to guide the conditioned soul back home, back to God. Certainly, no material friend would remain with his foolish companion for millions of years, especially if his companion were to ignore him or even curse him. The Lord Krishna is such a faithful, loving friend that he accompanies even the most demonic living entity, and is also in the heart of the insect, pig, and dog. That is because Lord Krishna is supremely Krishna conscious and sees every living entity as part and parcel of himself. Every living entity should give up the bitter fruits of the tree of material existence. One should turn one's faith to the Lord within the heart and revive one's eternal loving relationship with one's real friend, Lord Krishna. The word sat and shau, or of similar nature, indicates that both the living entity and the personality of Godhead are conscious entities. As part of the bird who did not eat the fruits of the tree is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who by his omniscience perfectly understands his own position and that of the conditioned living entity, represented by the eating bird. That living entity, on the other hand,
does not understand himself or the Lord. He is covered by ignorance and is thus called eternally conditioned, whereas the personality of Godhead, being full of perfect knowledge, is eternally liberated. One who is enlightened in self-realization, although living within the material body, sees himself as transcendental to the body, just as one who has arisen from a dream gives up identification with the dream body. A foolish person, however, although not identical with this material body, but transcendental to it, thinks himself to be situated in the body, just as one who is dreaming sees himself as situated in an imaginary body. Further, in Lord Krishna's discussion of the different characteristics of liberated and conditioned souls, the Lord first clarified the distinction between the eternally liberated personality of Godhead and the marginal potency. The innumerable jivas were sometimes conditioned and sometimes liberated. In this and the next 9 verses, the Lord describes the different symptoms of liberated and conditioned jiva souls. In a dream, one sees oneself in an imaginary body, but upon waking, one gives up all identification with that body. Similarly, one who is awakened to Krishna consciousness no longer identifies with the gross or subtle material bodies, nor does he become affected by the happiness and distress of material life. On the other hand, a foolish person, Kumati, does not awaken from the dream of material existence and is afflicted with innumerable problems due to false identification with the gross and subtle material bodies. One should become situated in one's eternal spiritual identity, Nitya Swarupa, by properly identifying oneself as the eternal servant of Krishna. One becomes relieved of his false material identity, and therefore the miseries of illusory existence immediately cease. Just as the anxiety of a troublesome dream ceases as soon as one awakens to his normal, pleasant surroundings. It should be understood, however, that the analogy of awakening from a dream can never be applied to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never in illusion. The Lord is eternally awake and enlightened by his own unique category called Vishnu Tattva. Such knowledge is easily understood by one who is Vidwan,